Hi everyone, my name is Gore and this is currently an online school. Today I'm going to speak about the IELTS exam. If to speak in a nutshell about myself, I studied at EF International Language School in Oxford. Nowadays I teach English. I prepare my students for the standardized exams such as TOEFL, IELTS and SAT. Besides that, I also teach Chinese. Okay. Now, let's fix all the technical problems, if you have any, of course. Please connect to the internet directly if possible, okay? So, can you hear me now? Please write to me in the chat box below, type yes or no. Okay, yes, but barely, yes, pretty well. Artur Hambartsumian, if you can't hear me well, you need to wear your headphones. I think that will help you. Okay. Okay, use your headphones. Okay, so can you see me well? Again, type yes or no. I think you can see me well, but in order to be sure, yes, you can see me well. So, the topic of our class today is IELTS General Info, which means the International English Language Testing System. So what are the lesson objectives? Upon completion of this webinar, you will learn about IELTS format, find out the differences between IELTS Academic and IELTS General training exams, and get the tips and materials to prepare for the test. So let's get started. People often ask what IELTS is. The International English Language Testing System, that is IELTS, is the world's most popular high-stakes English language test for study, work and migration, with more than 2.2 million tests taken each year. So IELTS assesses all of your English skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and is designed to reflect real-life use of English at study, at work, and at play. IELTS is the most widely accepted English language test that uses a one-on-one speaking test to assess your English communication skills. This means that you are assessed by having a real-life conversation with a real person. This is the most effective and natural way of testing your English conversation skills. You can choose from two versions of the test, IELTS Academic or IELTS General Training, depending on the organization you are applying to and your plans for the future. Both versions of the test are made up of 4 parts: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. IELTS results are graded on the unique IELTS 9-band scale. So why do people choose this test? The answer is that IELTS scores are accepted by over 9,000 organizations worldwide, including universities, employers, immigration authorities, and professional bodies. IELTS is designed by experts to fairly assess the language ability of candidates who want to study or work where English is the language of communication. Okay. IELTS recognizes both British and American English in terms of spelling, grammar, and choice of words. It also incorporates a mix of native speaker accents from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States in the listening component. The IELTS approach is recognized as being fair, reliable, and valid to all candidates, whatever their nationality, cultural background, gender, or special needs. The test questions are developed by a network known as the IELTS item writers in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and the United States. They are based on real-life sources, for example, advertisements, books, newspapers, and company policies. IELTS has been developed in close consultation with academics, professional bodies, and immigration authorities from around the world. Okay. IELTS is owned by a global partnership of education and language experts, the British Council, IDP, IELTS Australia, and the Cambridge English Language Assessment. These bodies are dedicated to academic excellence, cultural understanding, and student recruitment and creating success worldwide. Okay. IELTS tests are offered up to 4 times a month in over 900 test venues in more than 140 countries. The cost of taking the test is set locally and payable in the local currency. It is about 80,000 drams in Armenia, and it makes registration, of course, more convenient. Results are issued 13 calendar days after the test. Official IELTS test centers can send test report forms directly to your organization or institution, only either by mail or as the electronic download. There are 2 versions of IELTS to choose from: IELTS Academic and IELTS General Training. The following definitions should be as a general guide only. You need to check with the organizations you wish to apply to before you book for your test. So, what is the difference between the 2 versions? Everybody takes the same listening and speaking components. It is the reading and writing components that differ. The academic format is, broadly speaking, for those who want to study or train in an English-speaking university or institution of higher and further education. Admission to undergraduate and postgraduate courses is based on the results of the academic test. IELTS Academic may also be a requirement to join a professional organization in an English-speaking country. The general training format focuses on general survival skills in both social and workplace contexts. It is typically for those who are going to English-speaking countries to do secondary education, work experience, or training programs. People migrating to Australia, Canada, and New Zealand must sit the general training test. Every organization sets its own entry requirements. In some cases, both versions of IELTS may be accepted. Visit the following link that I'm sending to you right now via our chat box below for you to search for the organizations you want to apply to and find out which version you need. Just check the link that I'm sending to you right now via our chat box. Dear Arthur, don't forget to work with the audience. If you have any questions, just wait for my pause. I will say a couple of things about the format and other stuff, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. Okay? So this is the link that you can visit, which will help you to find the organizations that accept the IELTS test, and you can also find out which version is more applicable for you. Okay, I also want to send you a booklet with the information for candidates who want to take the IELTS exam. You will find very helpful tips and guidelines there. I will send it probably by our Facebook group at the end of our webinar. You can visit it later on. So while the IELTS global recognition system is committed to maintaining an up-to-date record of English language requirements It is strongly recommended that you also check the English language requirements with the recognizing organization by visiting their website or contacting them directly. Okay, so do you have any questions so far? If yes, write them in the chat box. If no, I will go on. So supposedly you don't have any question so far, then I will proceed. So, okay. So as I said, you have a choice of two versions of IELTS, academic or general training. And concerning the differences, I have just said that the differences in their sections, as I've already mentioned, everybody takes the same listening and speaking components. It is the reading and writing components that differ. This is the answer to Artur's question. You will take the listening, reading, and writing tests all on the same day, one after the other, with no breaks in between them. Your speaking test will either be after a break on the same day as the other three tests, or up to 7 days before or after that. This will depend on your test center. Okay? So now let's examine each section of the IELTS test. And let's start from the listening section. For the listening section, you will listen to 4 recorded texts, monologues, and conversations by a range of native speakers. And you will write your answers to a series of questions. These include questions which test your ability to understand main ideas and detailed factual information, ability to understand the opinions and attitudes of speakers, ability to understand the purpose of an utterance, and the ability to follow the development of ideas. A variety of voices and native speaker accents are used, and each section is heard only once. For section 1 of the listening part, there is a conversation between two people set in an everyday social context. For section 2, there is a monologue set in an everyday social context, for example, a speech about local facilities. For section 3, there is a conversation between up to 4 people set in an educational or training context. For example, a university professor and a student discussing an assignment. And at last, for section 4, there is a monologue on an academic subject. For example, a university lecture. Okay? Now let's speak about the academic reading section. The reading component consists of 40 questions. A variety of question types is used in order to test a wide range of reading skills. These include reading for gists, reading for main ideas, reading for details, skimming, understanding logical argument, recognizing writers' opinions, attitudes and purpose. The academic reading version includes 3 long texts, which range from the descriptive and factual to the discursive and analytical. The texts are authentic and are taken from books, journals, magazines, and newspapers. These have been selected for a non-specialist audience, but are appropriate for candidates entering university courses or seeking professional registration. Now let's have a couple of words about the reading section for the general training IELTS. Okay? The general training version requires candidates to read extracts from books, magazines, newspapers, notices, advertisements, company handbooks, and guidelines. These are materials you are likely to encounter on a daily basis in an English-speaking environment. Before I can proceed, do you have any questions to ask? Am I very fast? Can you understand what I said? Do you follow the speed of my speech, and do the content. Is everything clear to you? Okay. But I'm a little bit fast. Okay. I will be slower in future. So, let's go on. Academic writing. What about the academic writing section? The writing component of IELTS Academic includes two tasks. Topics are of general interest and suitable for candidates entering undergraduate and postgraduate studies or seeking professional registration. So, as you can see from your screen, time allowed is about 60 minutes, and there are two tasks. The number of tasks is 2. For task number 1, you will be presented with a graph, table, chart, or diagram, and asked to describe, summarize, or explain the information in your own words. You may be asked to describe and explain data, describe the stages of a process, how something works. For task number 2, you will be asked to write an essay in response to a point of view, argument, or problem. Responses to both tasks must be in a formal style. Okay? General training writing section. What do we have here? The writing component of IELTS General Training, again, includes two tasks, which are based on topics of general interest. For task number 1, you will be presented with a situation and asked to write a letter requesting information or explaining the situation. The letter may be personal, semi-formal, or formal in style. For task number 2, you will be asked to write an essay in response to a point of view, argument, or problem. The essay can be slightly more personal in style than the academic writing task number 2. And the last section of the IELTS exam is the speaking section. The speaking component assesses your use of spoken English and takes between 11 and 14 minutes to complete. Every test is recorded. The speaking component is delivered in such a way that it doesn't allow candidates to rehearse set responses beforehand. For part number 1, the examiner will ask you general questions about yourself and a range of familiar topics such as home, family, work, studies, and interests. This part lasts between 4 and 5 minutes. For part number 2, you will be given a card which asks you to talk about a particular topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare before speaking for up to 2 minutes. The examiner will then ask 1 or 2 questions on the same topic to finish this part of the test. And at last, for part number 3, you will be asked further questions connected to the topic in part 2. These questions will give you the opportunity to discuss more abstract ideas and issues. This part of the test lasts between 4 and 5 minutes. Evelina wrote that you are waiting for practical works. To be honest with you, today I don't prepare any practical work for you. It's just a general information about the IELTS exam. We will have practical assignments in future. Today I'm just speaking about the IELTS exam, about the difference between general training, IELTS and academic IELTS, and I am also sending to you some tips and practice questions that you can do at home. But practical questions will be at our disposal, supposedly, in the next coming webinar. So, I hope we managed to achieve our lesson objectives. Now you know more about the IELTS test, difference between academic and general training IELTS, And we got some tips, but practice questions which are written in our lesson objectives will be sent to you via our Facebook group. I found out about that very recently by our coordinator, so I can't upload it here. You can find some practical questions and some tips on our Facebook group. So visit it. So thanks a lot for attending our webinars. If you have any further questions, suggestions, or other comments, feel free to contact with us. You can do it via our Facebook group again. And thank you. Goodbye. And sorry for being a little bit too fast. Bye.